Well, hello, my friends. I've got some Christmas sweet shop DIYs for you today, so let's get started. I'm starting off with this thrifted breadboard, and I went ahead and cleaned it up and gave it a coat of shellac front and back. And now I'm putting on some of the Country Chic chalk paint in the color Vanilla Frosting. I'm going to do a couple of coats of this on the front, the back, and the sides. Then I'll seal it with my Ultra Matte Sealer. I'm going to be using some of the IOD stamps called Frosty's Sweet Shop and my Stays on Ink in Jet Black. I position the first piece on there how I want it to be, pick it up with my thin mount, and then apply my ink. Now I will hover over the position I want to put it in, line it up, and then press it down, holding it with one hand while smushing with the other, trying to get a good impression of that ink onto my board. The next stamp is a candy cane, just a straight candy cane. I have that in the position I want. I'm going to ink that up, wipe off any excess that I got onto the thin mount, and then I will position that on the bottom section of the board. As always, I will leave in the description box below a list of everything I used for today's projects. The next set of stamps, I'm using the Frosty and the two lollipops. So I get those into position, put them on the thin mount, ink them up, and put them into place. Now, I did get some spots on these that weren't complete. So I just went ahead and took those stamps individually and fixed the spots. Like on the Frosty, it was part of his scarf that needed to be filled in. So I just inked up that one part and added it, and I did the same with the lollipops. To seal this, I'm using Jolie Finishing Wax in clear. I'm going to brush this all over the entire board, front, back, and sides, and then wipe it back with a lint-free cloth. My original plan for this was to actually go in and paint in those stamps, like watering down some paint to use it like a watercolor and just give it all that fun color. But I realized I just didn't have the time to do that. I had to have these projects done by the end of October, which is a whole nother story that I need to tell you about, like why I was absent on YouTube for 6 weeks. But anyway, here we are adding the black wax now over that clear wax to the edges. And then I'm going to put this on the back side of that board as well. Just going to brush that on and wipe it back. So I will fill you in a little bit. Because I sell at a store, they have a deadline for when the seasonal stuff needs to be in. So I had to get these things done and in the store by mid-October. And I also, in the whole month of October, had to build a haunt build for my neighborhood. So I had to get these done and then go straight to the haunt build. And I could do nothing other than that. It took all my free time. So I couldn't do any videos or any more projects. And that's why I was gone for 6 weeks on here. It really messed with my algorithm, so I'm hoping that my channel will bounce back. But anyway, now I'm just adding the little finishing touch here, this homespun ribbon. Going to tie that around into the hole at the top of the board, and then just tie off a knot and trim off the excess at the ends, and that completes this little board. This is actually a great project for beginners. It's super cute and easy to do. For this one, I'm using a large paper mache tree. I believe it's 18 inches tall. And I'm using the IOD Ginger and Spice mold. With my DAS air dry clay, I'm going to cast the gingerbread people and the candies. I like to use this little scraper. It lines up with that micro rim and cleans the molds off really well. So then you just roll them out and smooth down the edges by dipping your finger in some water and then running that around the edges of your casting. I'm using Type Bond Quick and Thick to apply the castings to the paper mache tree. This is a lot easier if you roll up a couple of towels on either side of that tree so that it doesn't roll around when you try to apply that. So now this is the mom gingerbread person. I'm going to put her on the exact opposite side as the dad gingerbread man. And then I make the little girl and glue her on there. And they, at this point they're starting to dry out. So I went ahead and painted them. I think I'm using DIY's White Swan for this. I like to paint my air dry clay before it dries. It helps to minimize cracking. So I go ahead and paint those, and then I make the little boy and put him on there, and then I get him painted in. Next, I move on to the candies. So I'm going to make, I think, all of the candies that are in this mold and just randomly glue them on. There's a candy cane, a little peppermint swirl piece, and one of those little, like Tootsie Roll shaped, that one right there. And I'm just going to glue these all over wherever I see fit. And then I will paint them in with that same white chalk paint. I'm going to mix together cinnamon and nutmeg acrylic paint to paint over the castings and the entire tree. This is the color I mixed up that I felt was kind of a gingerbread color. So I'm going to go in and paint all the castings first, trying to get all that paint into the details of that clay. And then I will add that to the rest of the tree. Once that was all done and dry, I took some white paint. I think I'm using the white chalk paint, and I'm dry brushing on to all of those castings. So I'm just highlighting the raised details. I'm not applying a thick coat, getting it all into the recesses of those castings. I'm just going over the top of them, highlighting them. And I'm going to do this over all the candies and the gingerbread people. Now I'm taking Enchanted Shimmer and I'm going to apply this over the entire tree, over all of those castings as well. It gives it a nice shimmery look, kind of like they've all been sprinkled with sugar. For the topper, I'm going to use this wood knob. It has a hole on the one end that I'm going to put that rhinestone in. So I'm using Fabri-Tac glue, just kind of on the inside and just on that outer rim to apply that rhinestone so that it will close that off. And it fits right down in there. So it just closes it off. It won't even be noticeable. Now I'm going to paint this in White Swan. And once that's dry, I'm going to apply some baker's twine. It's a red and white baker's twine. So I'm going to start at that opening on the bottom. wrapping around that opening because that will go on top of the tree. So I need to keep that clear of anything blocking it. But I want to get a good start on this baker's twine so it wraps evenly around this entire ball. So I will continue wrapping this around, adding some glue and wrapping it around and around itself until I cover the entire knob, and then at the top just snip that off and glue that into place. Now we have a knob for our topper, and I'm going to take some more of that red and white baker's twine and just make some simple little bows, cutting off the ends so that they're just small little bows. And then I'm going to paint them with Enchanted Shimmer, and I'm going to add that to the ball as well. I glue the little bows on randomly in between the candies and the gingerbread people using Fabri-Tac glue. And then I'm going to take some more of that baker's twine and add it to the bottom of the tree where basically the trunk is. I'm going to start that, wrap it around, gluing in several spots, and then just continue wrapping that around about 3 times, gluing as needed. Snip off the excess, and then I'm going to give that a coat of that Enchanted Shimmer as well. Now we're going to take some of that glue, apply it to the inside of that knob, and attach that to our tree. And then I've got 2 more little bows left to glue, one on the front and one on the back, just below the topper. This is a wood tray that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, on sale of course. I'm going to go ahead and give this a couple of coats of shellac to seal it and prevent bleed through when I paint it. I'm using Country Chic in vanilla frosting. I'm going to go ahead and paint the entire tray. I'm doing the bottom inside first, then I do the bottom outside, and then all the edges inside and out. When that was dry, I gave it a coat of my ultra matte varnish. For this one, I'm using a transfer from IOD's Candy Cane Cottage collection. It's that one right there, the candy canes. So I taped this down in the position I wanted it to be so that I could remove that backing and lay it down and have it right where I wanted it to be, smoothing that out, and then grabbing that transfer tool and scrubbing away until this all comes free from that transfer sheet. I like to just pull it up until it catches and I know I need to scrape a little more, and then it finally all comes off, and you can just take a piece of that transfer sheet and burnish this down so that it's adhered really well. And then you just need to seal it. I'm going to use the Jolie Finishing Wax in Clear. I'm going to brush this on all over and then wipe it back with a soft cloth. And I don't just seal the inside where the design is, I do seal this entire tray, all the sides, the edges, and the back of the tray as well. And that's really all there is to this one. It's so simple, but I really like it. I just like the simpleness of it. I think it's really cute. Let me know what you think. So now we're going to make some faux candies. I've got some gnome fabric and some stripe fabric and a dowel rod that I cut into 1.5 inch pieces. These are about 3/4 of an inch across, and I'm going to spread some glue onto these and wrap this piece of fabric that I cut to fit around that. So I just gave an extra 1/2 inch or so on each side of that dowel rod as far as the fabric goes, in order to have enough at the ends that you could tie it off. So I'm just going to glue that final seam down right there on the edge. And then I'm going to take these little tiny rubber bands and wrap around those edges to hold them into place so that I can put some ribbon on there. This is really hard if you have arthritis, I'm telling you. Yeah, it was really difficult. So I've got this satin ribbon that I wanted to use, and my idea was to make a bow. But it was slippery and the bow wouldn't stay tight and hold. So I ended up just tying them into a knot instead, and then that held much better. And then I just trimmed off the excess ribbon after I made the knots. And there you have it, one little candy all ready to go. I just did the same thing with both fabrics on all of these, and then you trim off any excess fabric or little, stray fuzzies to clean them up a little bit, and you have faux candies. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you missed my last 2 Christmas videos, you can click on them right here. Hope to see you next time.